So this continues the video of creating a tool that'll take a polyline and put the objects within the polyline on a demo layer or demos layers. I only want to support polylines, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that line just so we could get polylines. And then there's some source code stuff out there from GuileCAD that I want to use. And so you can use this code by either downloading the assemblies or you can copy the URL, and then you're able to clone a repository. And I'm just going to put this in a Guile folder and then hit clone. And this will have some geometry extensions included in it. R25 is for 25 and older, or Civil 3D 2025. And R19 is from 2013 to 2024. And so there's some pretty good tools in here, like geometry extensions, where it has some tools to like project a polyline, project extents, and some other tools like getting a boundary for a hatch, for instance. And for the polyline extensions, there's an option to break at point and find a centroid, and some other tools within here, such as point containment. And this will allow you to evaluate if a point is inside, outside, or on the polyline using a tolerance value. And so I'll use this to determine if it is within the code. So within this project, there's some references, but I'm going to go ahead and add this to my other project. So I'll go ahead and hit open. And so now I'm back in my project. And I'm just going to go ahead and add the projects to this one as a reference, just so if I need to see what the code does or do something else. And so that's going to create a value here. Here I want to make sure that the assemblies go to the correct location. And if I go up here, I can go see where I put it. And if I right click and go to properties, and I can also double click on here. And his path is F, and so it looks like I just need to replace this path. And then it should update that. And this is just going to be in the C drive instead. And then I can also add the other project, which is going to be this AutoCAD extension. And I can go back to my other project, and then I can add the existing project to it. And then come in here and update the paths again. And then I can see that they've all been redone. And then I can add the project reference to both of these into my project. And I can build it to double check. And it should build all of them. And so it looks like it's build succeeded. And then I want to go ahead and process the information. And I'm going to go ahead and create a method that separates it out. There is a method in the editor to do a selection and giving it points, and it'll grab everything within there. But I think at some point I may want to make this work without a database. And so I'm going to go ahead and modify this to use the database objects. And here I want to just pass the polyline. And I'm just going to call it poly area. I'm going to grab the database from the current document, and then you can navigate through all of the objects within the drawing. And you can do that by getting the block table from it. And so I'm going to change this to block table. And then we'll also need to pass the transaction to it. And then the block table is kind of like a block definition. And the block definition then has a block table record. And the block table record is a list of all of the objects within the block. And you can tell it to which space you want to do. And this is just telling me that this might be null. You can turn this off in the properties of the project, but I'm not going to do that right now. You can also go in the error list and see any errors. And this is a message, and so I'm just going to ignore that. And this is the null reference once again. And so this is going to be the object ID of an entity. So I can go ahead and do for read as entity. And this entity is the entity that is my candidate to see if it's within or without it. So I'm going to do a quick check to see if the geometric extents of the object, and that just gives you like an X, Y, Z information about the minimum point and the maximum point for an object. And I'm going to do that within an extension. So that way, if I need to reuse this code, I can just use it based on the entity. And so that's going to be static and then we want to pass the entity. And I only care about the X, Y values and not Z, so I'll just go ahead and delete the Z. And so the geometric extents has a min point and a max point. And this is just comparing the X and the Y's to see if it's within an acceptable value. And if they're all if one of them is, if they're all true, then it'll return false, and then otherwise it'll return true. And then in the demolition code, I can then take my polyline and do if and I can do my other entity, which is going to be the entity. And then I can do continue. And this is asking me if it's a null exception. To get rid of the nullable error messages, you can add nullable disable to the project file. And so that'll get rid of that. And so I want to do is not overlap geometric extents, and it'll skip it. And then I just want to check my code. So I want to go ahead and change the layer if it's within, or if it meets this condition, and then I'll go and check my work within this. So I'm going to get the current layer name of the entity. And then I'm going to append everything with demo. And so if the layer name ends with demo suffix, I'm going to assume that it's already been processed, and then it's going to continue. And then I'm going to go ahead and change it with the demo suffix. So I want to create a database extension. And so I want to get the layer ID. So I'm just going to copy some code from a project that I already have. And so it's going to go get what's called a layer table ID. And this is a layer table. And so it has all of the layers in the current drawing. It's going to check to see if it has the layer. And if it does, it's going to return the object ID. And using the brackets returns that. If it doesn't exist, it's going to go ahead and create the layer within the drawing. And I don't need it, so I can use what's called a discard if it exists. And so then it'll set the layer object ID. I'm going to ignore any locked layers. So if it runs into a locked layer, it's going to go ahead and fail. So then I want to test this to see what the results are. And I'll do that by hitting play. And we'll rebuild the project and then open up Civil 3D. And so I can type netload to the command line and then select the BIM demo, and it'll bring the other DLLs along for the ride because those were set to copy true. I'll hit always load. And then I can select my polyline. And so it's going to say E not open for write. And this is throwing the error because I forgot to open it for write when I changed the layer ID. So then I can do entity upgrade open, and it'll upgrade it from write. So here I had it for read. This will make it for write, and then I can change it. So I can go ahead and start Civil 3D again. So I've restarted it and added some additional lines. And then I can do netload again. And then run demo layers. Select my boundary polyline. And then I saw that stuff turned white. So if I click on this, I can then see that it changed it to Bridge Pier Demo. Here, this changed it to Bridge Abutment Dash Demo, Text Demo, Demo, and then Demo. Here I can see that since I'm just looking for an overlap, this polyline and then this is overlapping. And so since they were geometrically overlapping, then it included it within it. But this line over on the top, the left and the right and the bottom are all zeros. And so I need to filter out this information and then break the polylines where they cross the information at. And then make sure that then I have just this segment and this segment are then set. And then I want to check to see if a vertex is within the polyline as well. And so in the next video, I'll go ahead and make those corrections.